Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for that. Welcome to Irish Writers for Palestine, Dublin Vicar Street event. It is absolutely amazing to see so many of you here. Who had originally bought tickets for the complex? They sold out in under an hour the last time. So thank you all, early adopters. You're all so welcome. Welcome, welcome. Latecomers too. Early or late, you're all welcome here. Come on in and sit down, join us all. I'm sorry we're not gathering tonight under more joyous circumstances, but it feels good, it feels comforting to gather together, doesn't it, in solidarity. It's great that all the fans of words are here tonight. Give it up for words. Words. All those word nerds are here. I'm very excited to see it. Now, just do a little bit of housekeeping. You probably heard it in the announcement, but if you weren't here, just to remind you, please turn off your phones. It's okay to take pictures and things, but please make sure that they don't ring or buzz during these beautiful readings. Please have a check, have a look, have a look. Let's see them lighting up now and never again. Beautiful, thank you, and welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in, don't you worry. And check out the fire exits. They're great. They're really great when you need them. Okay, so listen, this evening is just one of a series of readings that have taken place across Ireland in the last few weeks. Writers from Dublin, Belfast, Cork, and next week Galway will come together to read and speak, and most importantly, to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people. I think this might be the biggest single audience so far, with people watching from home on stream. So thank you all for coming out, and welcome our people at home on stream. As you probably know, all proceeds from the events go to medical aid for Palestinians. We're hoping to make a lot of money. That's right, show me the money. So in the interval, if you've any left, any at all, there are brilliant things. I don't know if you saw them on the way in. There's merch, there's T-shirts. Give us a woo. Yeah. Palestinian flags, badges, books by Palestinian writers. You're flagging, except for these people here. You're brilliant, absolutely. So here's for merch. And there's artwork from Helen at Skullduggery. Thank you to Helen. Now, these events were the brainchild of Michael Magee. Give Michael a round of applause, please. And, of course, his band of helpers. He'll be thanking them all at the end when he'll be closing us out with some final words. The format of tonight is simple. We have 12 readers who are generously giving us their time and talent, and 3 incredible musical acts. Each reader will read an extract either from their own work or from a Palestinian writer in translation, or something that they just feel speaks to this particular moment. But rest assured, word nerds, there will be words, plenty of them, and music. So this is the way the night will go. First we'll have some readings, then there'll be some music, some more readings, more music and an interval. You got that so far? Great. Then there'll be 15-20 minute interval where you buy all the merch, and then there'll be some more readings, more music, and then Michael will say goodnight to us. Does that sound good? Fantastic. You're absolutely lovely. Now, a tiny bit of COVID housekeeping. Sorry about this now, but unfortunately the team has been struck. I'm sorry about that. Now, don't be too disappointed, because they've sent some VTs instead. Yes, come on. From their sick beds, they've rallied to send you a message tonight. So unfortunately, we have lost Blindboy in person and Sally Rooney. Sorry about that, but they have sent a message, and they are absolutely gutted not to be here. So I'm really sorry about that, but there will be lots of other incredible things happening. Hey, word nerds. Word nerds, give us a woo. Because there are some incredible, incredible readings tonight, but we're not just here for those readings. Words. Because usually as an MC, you try not to be stuck for words. In fact, you come out and you try to sort of rally the crowd and maybe get a few laughs, and that doesn't really feel very right at the moment. I think you know what I'm talking about, and I have found it quite hard to find words in the last few weeks, find words at all, let alone laughs. But what tonight is about helping each other to find the words to help us articulate our solidarity and our grief. We'll do that together. And tonight might be a little bit more reflective than other events, but it's no less filled with hope. So to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, what we're saying is we're here, standing with you, we're listening, and we're going to lift your voices up. I'm sure, like me, lots of you have felt absolutely powerless in recent weeks, but Listening and bearing witness like we are tonight, that is a start. And as we bear witness to these words tonight, these beautiful words from different contributors, let's focus on meaning. Because recently calls for mercy have been reframed as horrible discrimination. The kind of discrimination that I'm certain everyone in this room and everyone watching tonight stands strongly against. Tonight, we call for compassion, for opposition to Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and we call for an end to persecution and the bombardment of civilians. We call for peace, for humanity. We call for nothing less. And to that end, we must call for a ceasefire now. When Michael Magee was opening the Belfast event, he asked, what use can words really be? He said, what can literature do in the face of ethnic cleansing, collective punishment and genocide? And he said, literature is the meeting place between writer and reader. It bridges the gap between who we are and what we think we know. And most importantly, it allows us to, as Palestinian poet Mahmoud Darwish says, make history less mythological, to place the myth within its proper metaphorical place, and to transform us from victims of history into partners of humanizing history. And in Belfast, Michael concluded, we therefore have a responsibility as writers to pick up the mantle laid down by our Palestinian brothers and sisters and resist. We'll be hearing from Michael, as I say, to close out tonight's event. Are you ready for your incredible readers? Fantastic. I can't wait to introduce our first reader. Our first reader is the author of 4 novels and 3 short story collections and has won too many awards to mention. He's originally from Limerick, via Cork. Whoop. He's now a citizen of the world, Sligo, and born on the same day as me. This is a fact. So no wonder our careers have been so similar. Please welcome, I'm such a huge fan. I'm a flan. I'm not a flan. But maybe I could be by the interval. Please, I'm a massive fan of Kevin Barry.
Thanks for that, Tara. Jesus. Hello. Thanks for coming out, everybody. It's fantastic to see you all here. I had the best of intentions. I had a notion that I was going to write a piece especially for this evening, a piece that would somehow try and describe the feeling of lying around in your house or in your shelter and waiting to hear planes overhead and bombs and drones and all that, and waiting for the shadow of your oppressor to fall over you. And of course I couldn't write it. But then I remembered that in a way, that text describing all that, it already exists. It's called The Unnameable by Samuel Beckett. And I'm going to try read a short extract from it now. If only I knew if I'd lived. If I live, or if I will live, that would simplify everything. Impossible to find out. That's where you're buggered. I haven't stirred. Never stirred from here. I never stopped telling stories to myself, hardly hearing them, hardly hearing anything, listening for something else, wondering now and then where I got them from, these stories. Was I in the land of the living? Were they in mine? And where do I store them? The stories in my head. I don't feel a head on me. What do I tell them with my mouth? Same remark. What do I hear them with? And so on, the old rigmarole. It's such an old habit. I do it without heeding. As if I were somewhere else. There I am, far away again. There I am, the absentee again. It's his turn again now. He who neither speaks nor listens, who has neither body nor soul. It's something else he has. He must have something. He must be somewhere. He is made of silence. There's a pretty analysis. He's in the silence. He's the one to be sought, the one to be, the one to be spoken of, the one to speak. But if he can't speak, then I could stop. I would be in the silence. I'd be back in the silence. We'd be reunited. His story, the story to be told. But he has no story. He hasn't been in the story. It's not certain. He's in his own story. Unimaginable, unspeakable. It doesn't matter. The attempt must be made in the old stories, incomprehensibly mine, to find his. It must be there somewhere. It must have been mine before being his. I'll recognize it. In the end, I'll recognize it, the story of the silence that he never left, that I should never have left, that I may never find again, that I may find again. Then it will be he, it will be I, it will be the place, the silence, the end, the beginning again. How can I say it? It's all words, all I have. All words. Not many of them. The words fall, the voice fails. So be it. I know that well. It will be the silence, full of murmurs, distant cries, the usual silence, spent listening, spent waiting for the voice. The cries abate like all cries. That is to say, they stop. The murmurs cease. They give up. The voice begins again. It begins trying again. Quick now before there's none left. No voice left. Nothing left but the core of murmurs, distant cries. Quick now and try again with the words that remain. Try what? I don't know. I've forgotten. Doesn't matter. I never knew. Carry me into my story. The stories that remain, my old story, which I've forgotten, far from here, through the noise, through the door, into the silence. That must be it. It's too late. Perhaps it's too late. Perhaps they have, how would I know? In the silence you don't know. Perhaps it's the door. Perhaps I'm at the door. That would surprise me. Perhaps it's I. Perhaps somewhere or other it was I. I can depart. All this time I've journeyed without knowing it. It's I now at the door. What door? What's a door doing here? Last words, true last. The murmurs are coming. I know that well. No, not even that. You talk of murmurs, distant cries, as long as you can talk. You talk of them before and you talk of them after. More lies. It will be the silence, the one that doesn't last. Spent listening, spent waiting for it to be broken, for the voice to break. Perhaps there's no other. I don't know. It's not worth having. That's all I know. It's not I. That's all I know. It's not mine. It's the only one I ever had. That's a lie. I must have had the other, the one that lasts. Didn't last. I don't understand. That's to say it did. It still lasts. I'm still in it. I left myself behind. I'm waiting for me. There. No, there. You don't wait. Don't listen. I don't know. Perhaps it's a dream. All a fucking dream. That would surprise me. I'll wake in the silence and never sleep again. It will be I, or dream, never dream again. Dream of a silence, a dream silence full of murmurs. I don't know. All words, never wake, all words, there's nothing else. You must go on, that's all I know. They're going to stop. I know that well, I can feel it. They're going to abandon me. It will be the silence for a moment, a good few moments. It will be mine, the lasting one. That didn't last, that still lasts. It will be I. You must go on. I can't go on. You must go on. I'll go on. You must say words as long as there are any, until they find me, until they say me. Strange pain, strange sin. You must go on. Perhaps it's done already. Perhaps they have said me already. Perhaps they have carried me to the threshold of my story, before the door that opens on my story. That would surprise me. If it opens, it will be I. It will be the silence where I am. I don't know. I'll never know. And the silence you don't know. You must go on. I can't go on. I'll go on. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Only a pro like Kevin Barry could be so professional after being introduced by a flan. Our next reader has so many strings to her bow, including novels, short stories, and work for several newspapers and BBC Radio 4. We are so lucky to have her. Please welcome Louise Kennedy.
Hello. I, in March, did a panel event at the Lahore Literary Festival in Pakistan with the writer Adania Shibli, who many of you probably heard about when she was cancelled, basically, by the Frankfurt Book Fair in the days following October the 7th. And I was in Germany myself that week, being allowed to read from my work in Hamburg and Berlin, and the injustice of that really wasn't lost on me. So I'm very privileged to be able to read from Adenia's novel, Minor Detail. The book, if you haven't read it, and if you haven't, you really should. It's in two parts. The first part deals with the gang rape by Israeli soldiers of a young Palestinian woman in 1949. And the second part of the book is really about a writer's attempt to tell the story of the murder and how difficult that was because just because of access to the place and obviously the difficulty of moving around. The further I drive, the more disorientated I become, until off to the left, I see another road that has been closed. And at this point, I realise that I've taken that road before, dozens of times. It's blocked off now by a mound of dirt and several massive concrete blocks, but it once led to Al-Jib villages. I stop the car where the roads intersect, step down and approach the heap of dirt and concrete blocking it to be completely sure that it exists and cannot be moved, and that neither my car nor any other car can drive around it. It's pretty, the road to Al-Jib, the way it leans left and right, crossing hills dotted with olive trees and little villages wrapped in quiet to Beit Iksa. I go back to the car, open the Israeli map, and again study the route that Israelis usually take to the coast. So, after descending to the bottom of the valley on Highway 50, one must turn right onto Highway 1 and stay on it for a long time without turning right or left. I examine the area along Highway 1, which, according to the map, appears to be primarily populated by settlements. The only two visible Palestinian villages are Abu Ghosh and Ain Rafah. I go back and open the map, which depicts Palestine until 1948, and let my eyes wander over it, moving between the names of the many Palestinian villages that were destroyed after the expulsion of their inhabitants that year. I recognize several of them. Some of my colleagues and acquaintances originate from there, from the villages of Lifta, Al-Khastal, Ain Karem, Al-Malha, Al-Jura, Abu Shusha, Siris, Inaba, Jimzu, and Dar Taif. But the majority of the names are unfamiliar to me to the extent that they invoke a feeling of estrangement. Khirbat al-Amur, Bilmain al-Burj, Khirbat al-Buwara, Beit Shana, Salbet, al-Khubab, al-Khanisa, Kharuba, Khirbat Zakaria, Bariya, Dar Abu Salama, al-Nani, Jindas, Hadatha, Abu al-Fadl, Kisla, and many others. I look at the Israeli map again. A very large park called Canada Park now extends over the area where these villages used to be. I fold the maps, start the engine, and set off towards Highway 50, and, encountering no barriers this time, I turn onto the really long highway. And after continuing on it for a while, I start to descend the mountains of Jerusalem, heading, according to the signs, towards the Ben Shemen interchange, whose original name may have been Beit Susan, named after a nearby village, which appears on the map from 1948 and which no longer exists. All that is left, all that hasn't been destroyed, is a single house, and I catch a glimpse of it on my left, surrounded by cypress trees and with grass growing through the stones. Thanks.
Thank you, Louise Kennedy. Our next reader is from Mayo and the author of the short story collections Young Skins, Homesickness, and the novel Wild Houses. Welcome to the stage, Colin Barrett.
Thank you. I'm going to read a short story by a Gazan writer, short story writer and poet, Yusra Al-Khatib. This story was translated into English and first appeared in an anthology of Gazan writers called The Book of Gaza, A City in Short Fiction. It's published by Comma Press. It's full of very beautiful writing. I'd recommend everyone to seek it out if you get a chance. The story is called Dead Numbers by Yusra Al-Khatib, translated by Emily Danby. For the 1,000th time, he read the scrap of paper, then folded it away in his pocket. The numbers written on it were unforgettable to him, but just in case, he had etched them on the wall beside his bed in faint pencil, which he could erase quickly should an inquisitive eye come across them. Each time he opened his wallet, the same scrap of paper fell into his hands. He would stare at it keenly, the 7 digits dancing before his eyes. Anxious, he would try hopelessly to ignore the numbers. Sometimes they would disappear, but only to return again, staring at him with an intensity belonging to the most shadowy crevices of his consciousness. The numbers would become concentric circles, growing and growing, then vanishing again into a chaos of shapes that could be neither set right nor followed. It was a chaos that taunted him, a memory that he thought had long since dissolved into the folds of time, returned to stir up trouble, a mass of dormant questions with no replies, killed by silence as usual. This time, in an act of pure stubbornness, he turned against the scrap of paper, a surge of rebellion taking hold. With a firm grip, he defied the fear, tearing up the scrap and scattering the numbers. It was their time to vanish into obscurity and remain there, of that he was sure. In an attempt to regain composure, he tried to steady his breathing. What came was a surge of guilt and self-pity for the crime he had obstinately committed against himself. How could I be so pig-headed about a bunch of numbers? With a quick decision taken by his trembling hand, the fragments of paper were gathered together again, but the action had no power to restore order to this scramble of numbers. He begged them to reveal their sequence and, once they had cooperated, placed them in their correct formation, then returned them together carefully to the warmth of his wallet to nestle close to his heart. Just one small move of the hand was enough to re-endow the numbers with the meaning that was theirs all those years ago. All he had to do was work his stiff fingers to manipulate the dial, whose 10 dead eyes seemed to observe his hesitance. Those eyes were his only audience. They witnessed his restless pacing across the length of that locked room to which he had fled from a peace-devouring world. Once more he sensed his own unease and closed his eyes to escape that stubborn gaze, and yet it had already worked its way into his imagination. He dragged his heavy feet to bed to lie down and forget the struggle that had been occupying him all these years. He flung his weary head into the pillow. It alone heard the raucous thoughts racing through his mind. Closing his eyes on his recent crime, he called for strength. When he opened them again, his gaze was swimming in a sterile darkness. No sky or stars to lead him in a new orbit, only the 10 haunting eyes of the dial. He averted his eyes from the from the barren ceiling and rested them on the wall, where his attention was drawn toward the faintly sketched numbers. He shut his eyelids before them, anxiety bubbling as the same question played in his mind. All this worry for a few useless numbers. Why let them throw you into your own prison for these dead emotions to take control? Put your finger right into those bulging eyes, said an insistent voice. Gouge them out. They're glaring at you. They're set on destroying your peace of mind. You need to confront the memory with courage. Dial the number. Perhaps deep down, you're in touch with a world that seems shut off from you now. There's only fear to blame if you can't find your place in the world. Doesn't the world I want at least deserve a chance? Asked a voice deep inside. I've never been a coward. I was always one to storm through shut doors to test my own limits. A spiteful voice deep inside jibed at him for his fear. How could he stand there, defenseless, before a set of dead numbers? They were the key to a world he'd always longed for, one he was afraid would eject him, then lock its gates. Fighting doubt, he contemplated the short distance that stood between his own rationale and the far wall. Then, in the space of an instant, he made up his mind and dragged himself over to the telephone, having apparently forgotten any sense of anxiety for the impending confrontation. With unintended confidence, he reached out a finger and turned the dial. Nothing. He tried the number again several times with the same insistence, making the most of his foolhardy, irreversible decision. He laughed at himself for his weak memory. How could he have got it wrong? How did he not know it by heart? In his mind, the sequence was but a faint image. He returned to the scrap of paper folded away in his wallet and turned on a light in the gloom. He pored over the numbers that his memory had so recently returned to order, and with almost crazed determination and a single-pointed stare, his defiant hand dialed again. All this for the call to fail once more. He plunged his index finger into the sockets as if gouging out the numbers to rid himself of their insistent gaze. Again and again he turned the dial, certain this time that he was not wrong and never had been. He waited, expecting to hear her voice emanating from that other world. Would she recognize him after so long an absence? Would she forgive him for his cowardice and hesitance? Or would she want an apology? What would she say? What sort of a conversation would stretch between them when in the past they had never had much call for small talk? What words could bring them together after the storm of questions had settled and his hesitant replies had scattered into the silence? And then which letters would form the first words of their new beginning? What words held a key that would open the way through to a supposedly forgotten image? The thought hadn't even occurred to him that she might have forgotten him or deleted him from her memory. She was incapable of change, he was sure of it, and he was the one who knew her best. She would be waiting for him eagerly after all this time, her words animated by the unfaded memory of him. Then a voice on the line caught his attention, and he was dumbstruck. The tone had none of her warmth or sweetness. It wasn't her. That moment he had anticipated. All his life was gone. Instead, he was sobered suddenly by a mechanical voice that echoed back from the other side of his world. In an iron tone, it spoke. "I'm sorry, the number you have called is not in service. For more information, please dial 144. Thank you.
Colin Barrett. We are now honoured to welcome via pre-record our first Palestinian writer. Fady Joudah has published 5 collections of poems, translated several collections of poetry from the Arabic, and is the recipient of numerous awards and prizes, including a Guggenheim Fellowship. The poems that we're going to hear tonight are part of a new manuscript that he says, and I quote, came together in its final form unexpectedly, astonishingly, in the last 2 weeks. Your warmest welcome, please, for Fady Joudah.
Hello, my name is Fady Joudah, and I'll be reading a few poems in sequence. Here we go. I am unfinished business, the business that did not finish me or my parents, won't leave my children in peace. In my right hand, a paper, in my left, a feather, to toss, to quill, to meet my terminal velocity. I forget Palestine has a kind way of remembering those who mark it for slaughter and those it marks for life. I write for the future because my present is demolished. I fly to the future to retrieve my demolished present as a legible past, to see what isn't hard to see in a world that doesn't. You have entered the tunnel. There is a light in the endless tunnel. Every word you think of has already been written by you or others who skim the spume of their seas. They love to travel. They love you more when you're dead. You're more alive to them dead. Resuscitated, you enter the tunnel you've been walking toward, marched toward, expelled into, dug with your spleen, the graveyard of your blood. Your mass, excised, clears your margins. The passive voice is your killer's voice. From time to time, they vote. From time to time, language dies. It is dying now. Who is alive to speak it? Daily you awake to the killing of your people, their tongue accented in your mother's milk. Daily you awake to the killing of my people. Do you? Censored, the news, shadow banned, McCarthy'd. We share a silence. In it, you grow numb, and I grow inconsolable. I wake up to what I go to bed with, without dreams. Nightmares are my days into weeks, into months. Will you stand with me next year or the next? I will be then as my people now, wandering the carnage you authorized or protested. I am removing me from the we of you. Sick leave, unpaid, administrative, long hiatus. I have watched vultures before, their committees over carcasses they did not kill. Daily the vultures are mute. Daily my father waits for the rip in his soul to widen. The last of his siblings alive, he dreads mourning a niece, a nephew, their kids or grandkids. Daily I remain where they remain, and my mother's two oldest sisters. They used to set aside pocket money for her schooling during previous wars on their right to exist. My life, the accent of their accent when my mind goes. Daily, my English is less identifiable to you. I search for a mole on a cheek, on the corner of a lip, a holy stone, a blackness to kiss. And my shards, collectible than a collector's piece. What do the slain teach? And grief sings being, because the dead don't grieve or sing. Not without the living, they don't. Daily, this pre-ancestral memory, impossible to walk away from, to stay with. It says all our names are false. Daily, your nuance, your addiction to detail, drop by drop, another round of sedatives. Sedative, the capital, body, the sweatshop. Ceasefire now before Thanksgiving, by Christmas or the New Year, on MLK Day or Easter, forever, before old tricks find themselves out and genocide is seen through this year or the next decade and scholars sign off on it. Repetition won't guarantee wisdom, but cease fire now before your wisdom is an echo. We need to differentiate between the dead and the not here. We require you to restore your mind to your heart, its earliest version, before the world touched it. After the massacre, who will emerge innocent? And I, a serf riot in maximum security prison, online or behind fences. Cease now. Sure, you will have to grant more rights and cede more ground. Sure, revolution shall not last, shall not end. Thank you.
A powerful, brand new response there from Fady Joudah. As we absorb some of the meaning of what we've heard, I think it would be good to have some music. What do you think? Yes. Our very first musician for tonight is from County Down. Any Down people in? Oh, Fairview. Well, now. God, the Cork people let me down earlier, but down, up, down. Anyway, she is a fluent Irish speaker who's been described as a little ray of sunshine through ancient forest leaves. We have never needed that more in this time, have we? So please welcome Múlú.
Hello, that was very nice, Tara, thank you. What's the crack? He's having a good night so far? Woo, exactly. Well, I am very humbled and honoured to be a part of this beautiful evening. I know there's so many very talented speakers on, so I'm not going to waste any time talking any shit, because I'm no good at that. Well, I'm really good at talking shit, but not so much the other stuff. So I'm going to play a couple of tunes for you first. The first one is a barn dance, and then I'm going to go into a jig that I wrote, and it's called The Olive Tree. I wrote it in mind of Palestine, and in light of everything that's been happening. And it's a jig, so it's in 6/8 rhythm. A lot of things are in 4/4. Someone described it to me before that 6/8 is, it kind of breaks the mold, and it's not the typical march kind of rhythm. Essentially, fuck the system. So I guess that's why I'm playing it. Yeah. Gramelga. Gramelga. I'm going to sing you a song now. The song's called Callinas Condelu. It's basically about a girl from County Louth who gets asked out by a guy from County Down. Where's all the County Down people here? Yeah, because basically he asks her out and then she says no, and then he just goes on to say how shit everyone from County Louth is. No offence if there's anyone here from County Louth, but also if there is, can we get security, please? But so it's an old song. It's from the Oriel area. It was collected by an amazing singer, Pádraigín Newlahan, and I got it from her. But I also performed up at the Belfast Irish Writers for Palestine, and I said the same thing there, that a great response to oppression is singing and speaking in your language, and proof that it doesn't work is the fact that we're still singing songs in Irish and we're still speaking Irish today. I'm just going to sing one more for you, and then I think it's going to be a short break. So a big thanks to everybody here, Gavin on the sound, and Mick and the whole crew for organising it. And the rest of the night is going to be really special. So, and fair play to yourself for coming out as well. This last song I'm going to sing, it's a Palestinian song. Iomaire Ilhawa. So I'm sorry for any wrong pronunciation. Maybe you have heard it kind of circling around the internet at the minute. I think it translates to Mother Dearest, roughly, the title. So yeah, here you go. And thanks, Gurmi Lamagaf, Asavay Lynn, and Nacht.
Iomaire Ilhawa, Iomaire
Múlú! Now she gets a break, but I don't. There's no break yet. There will be an interval very shortly, but we next have a piece of VT. So our next reader has sent some VT. She's very, very, very busy, very busy. They're all getting ready there now. Thanks, lads. Very, very good. It's great. Look at that now. Round of applause for the lads. Look, everyone pitching in tonight. Amazing. So our next reader is so busy. I can't believe she has contributed to tonight. She needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one. You will know her from the Great Pottery Throwdown, lots of theatre and telly, and not least winning a BAFTA for playing Sister Michael in Derry Girls. She isn't afraid to speak her mind. We love her for it. She sent us this. Please welcome Siobhán McSweeney.
Hi, everyone. My name is Siobhán McSweeney, and I'm sorry I cannot be there in person tonight. I want to thank the organisers for reaching out to me and asking me to do something. There's no way on earth I could possibly have said no. And I'm incredibly grateful to them for organising tonight, and for you all for buying a ticket and either being there live in person or watching on this live streaming link. I'm going to read an extract from the incomparable Bernadette Devlin's maiden speech to the House of Commons in 1969, if you can imagine, 1969. Not only because it's just a fucking amazing speech, one of the best speeches ever, but because, like all good things, it speaks down the ages to us and can speak to this awful time. I know I don't have a lot of time, that's why I'm rushing. The Right Honourable Member for Londonderry said that he stood in Bogside. He referred to what he saw as stark human misery. That is what I saw in Bogside. But it has not been there for just one night. It has been there for 50 years. And that same stark human misery is to be found in the Protestant fountain area, which the Right Honourable Gentleman would claim to represent. Equally poverty-stricken, they are equally excluded from the society which the Unionist Party represents. The society of landlords who, by ancient charter of Charles II, still hold the rights of the ordinary people of Northern Ireland over such things as fishing and paying the most ridiculous and exorbitant rents, and, in order to maintain their claim, divide the people into two sections and stand up in this house and say that there are those who do not wish to join the society. There is no place in society for us. There is no place for us in the society of landlords because we are the have-nots and they are the haves. We came to the situation in Derry where the people have had enough. Since the 5th of October, it has been the unashamed and deliberate policy of the Unionist government to try and force an image on the civil rights movement that it was nothing more than a Catholic uprising. The people of the movement have struggled desperately to overcome that image, but it is impossible when the ruling minority are the government and control not only political matters, but the so-called impartial forces of law and order. It is impossible then for us to state quite fairly where we stand. I was in the Bogside on the same evening as the Right Honourable Member for Londonderry. I assure you, Mr. Speaker, and I make no apology for the fact that I was not strutting around with my hands behind my back examining the area and saying tut tut every time a policeman had his head scratched. I was going around building barricades because I knew that it was not safe for the police to come in. I saw with my own eyes 1,000 policemen come in military formation into an oppressed and socially and economically depressed area. When a police force are acting under orders, presumably from the top, and the top invariably is the Unionist Party, and form themselves into military formation with the deliberate intention of terrorising the inhabitants of an area, I can have no sympathy for them as a body. So, I organised the civilians in that area to make sure that they wasted not one solitary stone in anger. Honourable members may find this amusing, and in the comfortable surroundings of this honourable house it may seem amusing, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, on the Bogside, there was something horrifying about the fact that someone such as I, who believes in non-violence, had to settle for the least violent method, which was to build barricades and to say to the police, "We can threaten you." The situation with which we are faced in Northern Ireland is one which I feel I can no longer say to the people, "Don't worry about it, Westminster is looking after you." Westminster cannot condone the existence of this situation. The question before this House, in view of the apathy, neglect, and lack of understanding which this House has shown to the people in Ulster, which it claims to represent, is how in the shortest space it can make up for 50 years of neglect, apathy, and lack of understanding. Short of producing miracles such as factories overnight in Derry and homes overnight in practically every area of the north of Ireland, what can we do? A solution which the government may decide to adopt is to do nothing, but serve notice on the unionist government that they will impose economic sanctions on them if true reforms are not carried out. The interesting point is that the unionist government cannot carry out reforms. If they introduce the Human Rights Bill and outlaw sectarianism and discrimination, what will the party which it is based on and survives on discrimination do? By introducing the Human Rights Bill, it signs its own death warrant. Therefore, the government can impose economic sanctions, but the Unionist Party will not yield. I assure you, Mr. Speaker, that one cannot impose economic sanctions on the dead. There we go. Have a wonderful night, and thank you very much again.
Oh. McSweeney does Devlin. Oh, if that was on tour, I would follow it around. I would follow it around the country. Our next reader is absolutely brilliant. She's the editor of 5 anthologies, author of the stunning essay collection Constellations, and Hagstone, a novel due for publication in 2024. She also, I should let you know, worked tirelessly behind the scenes to help make this evening happen, so give her an extra little boost of a round of applause. Put your hands together for the incredible Sinead Gleeson.
Good evening. This event and the events in Belfast, Cork and Galway came from a place of helplessness and solidarity. We all felt we wanted to do something, and I'm going to read some work, but if I could just give 2 brief thank yous. Firstly to Bren Berry, who is phenomenal at Vicar Street, and when we'd sold out the complex and I asked if we could have a bigger venue, and he was in the middle of what can only be described as a Christy Moore extravaganza, which is happening every night either side of the state. He said, yes, you can have the venue. So thank you, Bren Berry, and everyone working here tonight in Vicar Street. And in case nobody else says it, Michael Magee and Ellen Ray have done phenomenal work with this event and the event in Belfast. And in case no one says thank you to them, because Michael's going to say some words at the end, he's incredible. Read his book, Close to Home, and thank you for all their brilliant work. It felt important to me that you would hear Palestinian voices tonight, so I picked some poems from contemporary and canonical poets, and the age range is born in the 1930s up to born in the 1990s, and what's most striking about that is that the timelessness of the horror, that since the Nakba in the 1940s, very little has changed. So I'm going to read you some of that work. The first poem is called I Come From There by Mahmoud Darwish. I come from there and I have memories, born as mortals are. I have a mother and a house with many windows. I have brothers, friends, and a prison cell with a cold window. Mine is the wave snatched by seagulls. I have my own view and an extra braid of glass. Mine is the moon at the far edge of the words, and the bounty of birds and the immortal olive tree. I walked this land before the swords turned its living body into a laden table. I come from there. I render the sky unto her mother when the sky weeps for her mother, and I weep to make myself known to a returning cloud. I learnt all the words worthy of the court of blood so that I could break the rule. I learnt all the words and broke them up to make a single word, homeland. Blood by Naomi Shihab Nye. A true Arab knows how to catch a fly in his hands, my father would say, and he'd prove it, cupping the buzzer instantly with the host. Swatter stared. In the spring, our palms peeled like snakes. True Arabs believed watermelon could heal 50 ways. I changed these to fit the occasion. Years before, a girl knocked, wanted to see the Arab. I said we didn't have one, and after that, my father told me who he was. Shihab, shooting star. A good name borrowed from the sky. Once I said, when we die, we give it back. He said that's what a true Arab would say. Today, the headlines clot in my blood. A little Palestinian dangles a truck on the front page. Homeless fig, this tragedy with a terrible root is too big for us. What flag can we wave? I wave the flag of stone and seed, table mat stitched in blue. I call my father, we talk around the news. It's too much for him. Neither of his two languages can reach it. I drive into the country to find sheep, cows, to plead with the air. Who calls anyone civilized? Where can the crying heart graze? What does a true Arab do now? Fuck your lecture on craft, my people are dying, by Noor Hindi. Colonizers write about flowers. I tell you about children throwing rocks at Israeli tanks seconds before becoming daisies. I want to be like those poets who care about the moon. Palestinians don't see the moon from jail cells and prison. It's so beautiful, the moon. They're so beautiful, the flowers. I pick flowers for my dead father when I'm sad. He watches Al Jazeera all day. I wish Jessica would stop testing me, happy Ramadan. I know I'm American because when I walk into a room, something dies. Metaphors about death are for poets who think ghosts care about sound. When I die, I promise to haunt you forever. One day, I'll write about the flowers like we own them. O Rascal Children of Gaza by Khalid Juma. O rascal children of Gaza, you who constantly disturbed me with your screams under my window, you who filled every morning with rush and chaos, you who broke my vase and stole the lonely flower on my balcony. Come back and scream as you want and break all the vases, steal all the flowers. Come back. Just come back. And finally, a letter from a bankrupt by Sami Al-Qasim. I may lose my daily bread if you wish. I may hawk my clothes and bed. I may become a stone cutter or a porter or a street sweeper. I may search in animal dung for food. I may collapse naked and starved. Enemy of light, I will not compromise, and to the end I shall fight. You may rob me of my last span of land. You may ditch my youth in prison holes. Steal what my grandfather left me behind, some furniture or clothes in jars. You may burn my poems and books. You may feed your dog on my flesh. You may impose a nightmare of your terror on my village. Enemy of light, I shall not compromise, and to the end I shall fight. Enemy of light, the signs of joy and the tidings, shouts of happiness and anthems are there at the port and at the horizon. A sail is defying the wind and the deep seas, overcoming all the challenges. It is the return of Ulysses from the lost seas. It is the return of the sun and the return of the ousted. And for their sake, I swear, I shall not compromise. And to the end, I shall fight.
Sinead Gleeson. And thanks so much to Sinead for doing all the hard work to bring us together tonight. Now, before we head to more beautiful music and then our interval, we hear from our second Palestinian guest. Bana Abu Zuluf is a PhD candidate in international law at the National University of Ireland, Maynooth. Bana writes poetry about Palestine, liberation, and transnational solidarity. She's a member of Academics for Palestine, and we are so thrilled to welcome her here in person tonight. Please give her the warmest welcome, Bana Abu Zuluf.
Thank you. Today I will be presenting a poem that I wrote myself. The poem is titled A Poem, a Protest. People say that I suppose everything can be a poem. So I believe protests can be poems, but also poems can be protests as well. So that would be the title of today's poem, A Poem and a Protest. Am I dead? Is this a dream? I am a zombie, a human animal. My flesh is depleting. My first meal was a gunpowder protein shake. I am a human animal, crushed under the dark concrete. This must be hell. But do I condemn Hamas? In Palestine, we just naturally die, says CNN, BBC, and RTE. Our death is a collateral, they say. We are a death toll, they say. The B in BBC is for bigotry. The R in RTE is for racist lies about asymmetry. The C in CNN is for a 5-letter word. Don't worry, nothing unusual. Interviews with oppressors, cloaked as debate. Our narrative lost, sealed in our fate. I am a human animal. It is a simple dichotomy, a colonizer and a colonized. But the colonized are uncivilized, or worse, they're brown. We better not make a sound. It abuses their serenity. Their lies are gospel, and our truths are lies. We live in a surrealist time, where lies have more airtime, and the loudest in the streets are out of line with their logic of war crimes. Thousands and millions for Palestine, but we are not numbers, not in our dead, not in the streets. The numbers were UN resolutions offering unjust solutions to give the West tranquility and deprive Palestinians of humanity. We are not numbers. The numbers were bombs, numbers on checks to the baby of empire, but always some leftover in humanitarian aid for CPR on the dead. They're very generous. We don't have electricity, so they light up our skies with white phosphorus. And when our skins burn, and when we're murdered in the hospitals, they howl, your claim is unverifiable, it's easily deniable. You're a human animal. But do you condemn Hamas? Otherwise, it's a screen pass. A picture speaks 1,000 words, but our pictures are unheard. That picture has a blood stain. Trigger warning campaign. It will drive you insane, but not enough to switch lane on your both-sidism claim. We should not be shouting in vain. We know who is to blame. They do have no shame. History repeats itself. If each held a coffin, it still wouldn't suffice to carry the burden of this endless strife. In the safe corridors, white flags turn red. In the churches, out of the rubble, Jesus has bled. In the hospital, a mother. My dear, why did you leave me? I prepared a birthday party for you. And from the river to the sea, we mourn your baby. History repeats itself. They created Frankenstein, and he occupied Palestine. But it's complicated to say they violated norms and laws, or God forbid, genocide. They're docile. They can't commit apartheid. But it's complicated. Palestinian deaths are fabricated, but their Hollywood films are reality, and Palestinians can only plea, but only as perfect victims of their insanity. A poem, a protest, a cry in the night, echoes of rage in each word I write. Am I alive or merely a shade? A spectre in a land besieged and betrayed? I am human, yet labelled a beast, feeding on remnants of war, not feast. My home, a shadow under the crushing block, a living grave in the hearts of the rock. This must be Hades, where the innocent weep. But do I dare condemn when justice is asleep? In Palestine, where deaths come unbidden, our stories unspoken, forever hidden, the media paints us in shades of grey, a narrative skewed, humanity astray. You are but animals, they claim. But do they not see it's they who maim? In every street, every home, our resolve is found. For our land, our people, we are eternally bound. We are not numbers, not just a tale. We are Palestine, and we shall prevail. Thank you.
Bana Abu Zuluf. It is almost time for your interval, and because it's going to be about 15, 20 minutes long, so go get your stuff, go get your merch, and come back. I'll see you back here then. But before I go, I'm going to introduce the next musical act. And because you've all been so sound and generous, and the quality of your listening has been so amazing, I think you deserve a national treasure. So we're going to give it to you. Are you excited? Woo, yeah, good. Are you excited? Yes, you should be. This performer is a violinist and multi-instrumentalist composer, a founder member of the Frames and Keela. He's equally well known as a solo artist. Sure, he's part of the fabric of Irish music history at this stage. So please welcome national treasure, Colm McSweeney.
Salam alaikum. Kechwilchiv, Smoragum Avensha. It's big with me to be here with you. I won't keep you long. I know you're thirsty. So back in November 2019, I went on an extraordinary journey to, I spent 10 days in traveling around Israel and Palestine. And I found myself in, I was there with an organization called Narrative 4 and the novelist Colin McCann. And I was reading Colm's soon-to-be printed book, A Paragon, which is about two bereaved fathers, one Israeli, Rami Elhanan, and the other Bassam Aramein, who both are bereaved fathers. They'd lost... Each of them lost their daughters. Smadar was killed by a Palestinian suicide bomber in Jerusalem, and Bassam's daughter, Abir, was shot outside her school by an Israeli soldier. She was 11 years old. And so these two men are parts of an organization called the Parent Circle, which is made up of bereaved family members from both traditions and who want to end the occupation. So I found myself up in Nablus, and I was given the task of learning a dabka rhythm, which is the dabka is the traditional Palestinian dance, and so that some of the people, they could teach us how to do the dance, and they had no musician, so I was drafted. And then a couple of days later, I was in a schoolyard in Ramallah, further south, and in a schoolyard full of children, and the mosque next door, the call to prayer happened, and just the volume and the melody just was like a musical tattoo. So anyway, I went back to Jerusalem that evening, and both kind of pieces of music came together into a piece of music, which I'll play for you now. That's not it. Gurmil Magav, Shukran. On one of the days, we were only there for a short time, but we managed to squeeze in an enormous amount. And it's so overwhelming on a sensory level to be traveling around because we know all the place names, all of the signposts are so familiar. They're tattoos we got at a young age. Nazareth, Bethlehem, etc., etc. And when you go to Bethlehem, as we did, we went to the Ida refugee camp, and I was passing through thought it would be safer and draw less trouble to leave the violin in the taxi rather than draw a search. So myself and Colm skipped through the turnstile as we could, being white Europeans. and we visited an amazing man called Abdel Fattah in the Al Rawad Center in Aida refugee camp. And he was telling us about his program, which is all about repairing broken children, is what he talks about. And I happened to notice that there was a violin case over on one of the shelves, and just as a footballer would notice a football, I took the case out, and inside was a fiddle, and the bridge was off, and the tailpiece was off, and the strings. So I just set about, doing the crossword as it is. So repairing, putting the fiddle back together again, as Abdel was telling us the story of. So his organization. So their purpose is basically to give young people a different channel rather than just throwing stones. To give them painting classes, dancing classes, music classes, literature, and he calls this beautiful resistance. And so it was incredibly moving to hear him talk about their programs. And then towards the end of his talk, I had brought the fiddle back a little bit from death, and so I decided to play Abdel a piece of music. And the first tune that sprang to mind was an Irish air, which is a song of resistance of ours from the 17th century, a tune called Roisin Dubh. And it was at a time where it was forbidden for us to sing about our dreams of having a homeland or a country, or to have our own place back again. And so we had to shroud it in code, My Little Black Rose. So I turned it into a love song. So I played this for himself. And tonight I play it for yourselves and everybody who is in pain tonight and suffering and sorrow. Shukran, Gurmila Magav. So I'll leave you with this one. So this is maybe it's the second public performance ever of this tune. I was kind of musically thunderstruck on my visit to the West Bank, and we were supposed to go to Gaza, but something prevented us from going there. And but it's almost like, anyway. So this is a musical response to my experiences there. This doesn't have a title yet. The first tune I played is called The Minbar of Salahuddin, which is the pulpit in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. But this is about Abir and Smadar. Gurmina Mahagav.
Colin McInerney! It is time for your interval. It's going to be 15 minutes. Please give it up for everyone you heard in the first half and come back for a beautiful second half. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the second half of the show. Now, that was a lovely welcome back, and I do appreciate it, but I figure we can expand it out to the edges. Welcome back to the second half of the show. Oh, I'm very needy. You're very good. Thank you so much. Did you have, darling fellow word nerds, did you have a good interval? Did anyone get any merch? You did? Hold it up there. No, it's in a bag. No. Oh, there it is. Oh, brilliant. One person anyway. Anybody else? Anybody else get any merch? Yeah, no, we bought the tickets, Tara. That's enough. Oh, down the back, someone's valiantly trying to, yes, hello, well done you. Brilliant. Come on in. We have an amazing second half for you. Very, very special. And we'd love you to please continue with the gorgeous, generous listening you've been doing for the first half. And we really, really appreciate you being here. So our first reader, so please take your seats as quickly as you can. Almost there. And everybody. Oh, that was gorgeous. God, I feel like I needed that. Let's do it again. Oh, you're going to make me cry. That was absolutely beautiful. Our first reader in the second half is an Irish novelist known for his poetic, lyrical style and exploration of complex themes. He has published 5 novels and won several awards, including the 2023 Booker Prize. That's right. Can you guess who it is yet? For Prophet Song. Now please go wild and crazy, because in his first public appearance in Ireland since that incredible win, give it up for Paul Lynch.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a book called Prophet Song. It's terribly apt that I'm going to read from this, as you'll find out. And the book is about, I suppose, an unravelling of sorts, the unravelling of the liberal democracy and its Dublin. And at this point in time in the book, there have been airstrikes, but there is a ceasefire. So Eilish is just trying to get back to normal and get things done. Clicking tongues the back wheel of her bike as she lifts it through the door and puts it against the wall. The oven timer pinging in the kitchen. She calls for somebody to turn off the alarm and looks about for her slippers, calls out again, then steps barefoot inside. "Where's Bailey?" she says, passing Molly at length on a mattress with her face before a laptop and headphones on, Ben dozing in the cot while gripping a wooden spoon. She has tipped the brown bread out of the pan onto the rack, tapped it on the base, testing for a hollow sound before she thinks to turn off the alarm. The electricity is going to go off again any minute. She will try to do one more wash of clothes. The warm stillness of the crusted bread. She is thinking of Carol Sexton and her sour mouth, finds herself before Molly, waving the oven glove. "Why couldn't you take out the bread like I asked?" The wounded eyes that glance up from the screen belong to Carol and not her daughter. Eilish turning for the kitchen when she stops with the listening look towards the ceiling, and in an instant she has covered her head with her hands, the sound of the world coming undone, a tremor passing under the house and the sound of raining cement. She is running for Ben and lifts him from the cot, roaring for Molly to get under the stairs. Molly pulling her headphones off. Eilish's eyes wild about the room. "Where's Bailey?" she shouts. "Where's your brother gone?" The look of panic on Molly's face, the mouth that opens for words that do not sound but have fled before her under the stairs, her hand pointing to the door. "He went out," she shouts. "He said he was going to get milk." Eilish places Ben into Molly's arms and shunts her into the recess. She's moving for the front door with Bailey's name in her mouth, her hands sliding open the patio door, her eyes reaching for the street, thinking there is no milk to be bought, when soundlessly she is raised from her feet and borne through the air rearwards with her arms held out in some counter time of light and darkness, holding pieces of cement in her mouth. She is lying in a mute darkness beneath an immense and flattening silence. Something rests inside her mouth that is not blood, blood rising around the bitten tongue, the blood building around what lies in the mouth. It is not cement, but something else. Her eyes opening to the hallway clouded with glass and dust, and Molly leaning over her to lift the bicycle off her body while holding Ben in her arm. Molly shouting with a silent mouth, and Eilish cannot understand as she is pulled by the wrist into sitting up. From silence, there comes a rushing sound that gives to bawling voices and running calls for help amidst the ringing of house alarms, as though everyone has just been belled awake into morning. Molly wiping at her mother's face, Eilish seeing her own blood dark on the sleeve of Molly's top. She has taken her daughter by the wrist, but cannot shape her mouth. She tries to stand, but the weight of her body has come to rest in her skull so that she dizzies against the wall. She leans her weight into her hand and forces herself to stand, printing the wall with blood, Ben wailing and clinging to his sister while Molly tells her to sit down. She must force the mouth to speak, seeking to work the tongue to sound the word that sits in blood beneath the bitten tongue, the name. There is only a name that must take shape in her mouth, the silent cave after she has whispered it. Bailey. She is stumbling through the doorway and will not be stopped. Some rank amalgam smell coming to meet her. It penetrates the nose, the eyes, the mouth. It burns her throat as she steps out into a void of smoke and hanging dust that occupies the space between the houses. She walks shouting for her son as men and women come to be from out of the dust, glass and cement crunching under running feet, the white hats of the civil defence calling to each other as they move upon the site of the airstrike. Through the dust, she can see the sudden rubble of houses to the right of the Zajic's house, the cement dust suspended in the air, and the smoke turning in an easy breeze that fans outwards as though to brother with the smoke rising from the first airstrike towards the end of the street. She is met with some broken mechanism of thought, cannot recall who lived across the road, cannot put a face to anyone she knows as she walks alone in a silent world, staring fiercely through the dust. Somebody has taken hold of her elbow. A speaking face under a white hat asks if she is hurt. A blanket is placed on her shoulder, and she is walked to the side of the street and made to sit on the path. You don't understand, she says, trying to force a smile against the pain in her mouth. My son is coming back from the shop. My son went out to get milk. Thank you.
Booker Prize winner Paul Lynch. Our next reader is an Irish author and screenwriter who has garnered critical acclaim and commercial success and been named one of Time magazine's most influential people in the world. It's the author of Conversations with Friends and Normal People. Despite COVID, welcome Sally Rooney.
Hello everyone. As you might know, I tested positive for COVID yesterday, so I can't be there with you in person this evening. On a personal note, I want to say how sorry I am about that. Speaking out alone in solidarity with the people of Palestine is important, but it's so much more important to speak out together. And tonight, that's what we're trying to do. Thank you so much for being there, to raise your voices against ethnic cleansing and genocide, to grieve together, to protest, but also to celebrate Palestine and Palestinian culture. On that note, I want to share with you a reading from a short story by the writer Kassan Kanafani. For those who don't know, Kanafani was born in Palestine in 1936 and was forced to flee with his family in the Nakba of 1948. In adulthood, he became a committed Marxist and a spokesperson for the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, as well as a renowned writer of fiction. I would like to read to you an excerpt from Kanafani's story Letter from Gaza, first published in 1956 and translated into the English by Hilary Kilpatrick. This story takes the form of a letter sent by our narrator to his childhood friend, Mustafa. The two of them have always planned to emigrate together to the United States, and Mustafa is now in California, waiting for our narrator to join him. Just before this excerpt begins, our narrator, who has been based in Kuwait, learns that Gaza has been bombarded once again by the Israeli army. He returns there and goes to visit his 13-year-old niece in hospital before his planned emigration to the USA. That evening, I bought a pound of apples and set out for the hospital to visit Nadia. I knew that there was something about it that my mother and my sister-in-law were hiding from me, something which their tongues could not utter, something strange which I could not put my finger on. I loved Nadia from habit, the same habit that made me love all that generation, which had been so brought up on defeat and displacement that it had come to think that a happy life was a kind of social deviation. What happened at that moment? I don't know. I entered the white room very calm. Ill children have something of saintliness, and how much more so if the child is ill as a result of cruel, painful wounds. Nadia was lying on her bed, her back propped up on a big pillow, over which her hair was spread like a thick pelt. There was profound silence in her wide eyes, and a tear always shining in the depths of her black pupils. Her face was calm and still, but eloquent, as the face of a tortured prophet might be. Nadia was still a child, but she seemed more than a child, much more, and older than a child, much older. Nadia. I've no idea whether I was the one who said it, or whether it was someone else behind me. But she raised her eyes to me, and I felt them dissolve me, like a piece of sugar that had fallen into a hot cup of tea. Together with her slight smile, I heard her voice. Uncle, have you just come from Kuwait? Her voice broke in her throat, and she raised herself with the help of her hands and stretched out her neck towards me. I patted her back and sat down near her. Nadia, I've brought you presents from Kuwait, lots of presents. I'll wait till you can leave your bed, completely well and healed, and you'll come to my house and I'll give them to you. I've bought you the red trousers you wrote and asked me for. Yes, I've bought them. It was a lie, born of the tense situation. But as I uttered it, I felt that I was speaking the truth for the first time. Nadia trembled, as though she had an electric shock, and lowered her head in a terrible silence. I felt her tears wetting the back of my hand. Say something, Nadia. Don't you want the red trousers? She lifted her gaze to me and made as if to speak, but then she stopped, gritted her teeth, and I heard her voice again, coming from far away. Uncle. She stretched out her hand, lifted the white coverlet with her fingers, and pointed to her leg, amputated from the top of the thigh. My friend, never shall I forget Nadia's leg, amputated from the top of the thigh. No, nor shall I forget the grief which had moulded her face and merged into its traits forever. I went out of the hospital in Gaza that day, my hand clutched in silent derision on the £2 I had brought with me to give Nadia. The blazing sun filled the streets with the colour of blood. And Gaza was brand new, Mustafa. You and I never saw it like this. The stone piled up at the beginning of the Shajia quarter where we lived had a meaning, and they seemed to have been put there for no other reason but to explain it. This Gaza, in which we had lived, and with whose good people we had spent 7 years of defeat, was something new. It seemed to me just a beginning. I don't know why I thought it was just a beginning. I imagined that the main street that I walked along on the way back home was only the beginning of a long, long road leading to Safad. Everything in this Gaza throbbed with sadness which was not confined to weeping. It was a challenge. More than that, it was something like reclamation of the amputated leg. I went out into the streets of Gaza, streets filled with blinding sunlight. They told me that Nadia had lost her leg when she threw herself on top of her little brothers and sisters to protect them from the bombs and flames that had fastened their claws into the house. Nadia could have saved herself. She could have run away, rescued her leg, but she didn't. Why? No, my friend, I won't come to Sacramento, and I've no regrets. No, and nor will I finish what we began together in childhood. This obscure feeling that you had as you left Gaza, this small feeling must grow into a giant deep within you. It must expand. You must seek it in order to find yourself here among the ugly debris of defeat. I won't come to you, but you return to us. Come back to learn from Nadia's leg, amputated from the top of the thigh, what life is and what existence is worth. Come back, my friend. We are all waiting for you.
Thank you, Sally, and we hope you get well soon. Our next reader is an author and journalist. His debut book, To Be a Machine, was published in 2017, followed by further notes from an apocalypse in 2020 and a thread of violence in 2023. He has written for The New Yorker, The New York Times Magazine, The New York Review of Books, and The Guardian. Please welcome the fabulous Mark O'Connell.
Thank you. I'm going to read 3 quite short poems. First one by, of all things, a German writer, Bertolt Brecht, and the second 2 poems by Palestinian writers Sami al-Qassad and Rashid Hussein. I'm really sorry Sally couldn't make it for her and for you guys, but I'm quite glad that I didn't have to follow a real-life Sally Rooney. It's bad enough having to go on after Paul. So this is the first poem, Driving Along in a Comfortable Car by Bertolt Brecht. Driving along in a comfortable car on a rainy country road, we saw a raggedy man at nightfall who waved to us to give him a lift and gave a deep bow. We had a roof and we had room, and we drove on past, and we heard me say in a surly voice, "No, we can't give anyone a lift." We had gone some distance further, a day's march, perhaps, when suddenly I took fright at this voice of mine, this behavior of mine, and this whole world. Tent 50, Song of a Refugee by Rashid Hussein. Tent 50 on the left is my new world, shared with me by my memories. memories as verdant as the eyes of spring, memories like the eyes of a woman weeping, and memories the colour of milk and love. 2 doors has my tent, 2 doors like 2 wounds. One leads to the other tents, wrinkle-browed, like clouds no longer able to weep. And the second, a rent in the ceiling leading to the skies, revealing the stars, like refugees scattered, and like them naked. Also, the moon is trudging there, downcast and weary as the UNRWA, yellow as though it were the UNRWA, under a load of yellow cheese for the refugees. Tent 50 on the left, that is my present, but it is too cramped to contain a future. And forget, they say, but how can I? Teach the night to forget to bring dreams, showing me my village, and teach the wind to forget to carry to me the aroma of apricots in my fields, and teach the sky, too, to forget to rain. Only then I may forget my country. And this third poem is by Samuel Kassem. It's called Patrice Lumumba, about the Congolese independence leader, Lumumba. Beat the wind and soar, O rebellious lover of freedom, O you eagle repelled by existence in a humiliated, shackled valley. As you twisted in the cesspool of mud and thorns, fired by a yearning for light, and your dreams gleamed with the visions of Jesus, Moses, and the aspirations of Muhammad, illuminating a craving for lofty summit, soaring among the stars in the far beyond. You pranced for glory, your faraway haven that perches on deep-seated dignity. O you cheers whose tremors rocked the sad, tormented Congo, hoodwinked by a gang that slave-drove the people and delivered them to a foreign master. O great eagle of Africa, the calling of the sun looms and thunders in the universe. And it was you who heeded its appeal, cried, Mother, I heed, and tomorrow we rendezvous on the horizon of heroic gallantries. You braced your wings, your beak throbbing with flames, your tears restrained, and you glittered, a star breaking the long-drawn screen of darkness. So, carry the magnificent torch and dispel the reign of night that the invaders wanted to be eternal, perpetual. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mark O'Connell. Our next reader is from Limerick and presents, calm down. Presents, I think it's fair to say, a fairly popular podcast. He's also a super talented writer, and his latest collection of short stories, Topographia Hibernica, has just been published. He has, as you know, he's not here, but he has sent us this message. Please welcome Blindboy.
Hello, it's Blindboy Boat Club. Sorry for not being here in person tonight, but I have COVID in 2023. I actually have COVID, so it's best if I stay at home. But I'm recording this from the internet in Limerick. First, I want to thank all of ye for coming out tonight, each and every one of ye, for coming out and contributing towards such an important cause to help the people of Palestine. I'm going to read you a poem by Maya Abu al-Hayat, and the poem is called Mahmoud. Mahmoud could have been our son. I'd have objected to the name, and for family reasons you'd have insisted on it. We could have bought him a crib with a blue quilt and hung spinning musical animals to coax him to sleep. Could have stayed up all night for his first tooth, experimenting with various formulas because my breasts couldn't produce enough milk for his voracious appetite. And with a new Nikon camera, we could have captured his first step, and his verbal skills would have wiped the floor with your niece's skills, of course. We could have disagreed over his elementary school. Nothing wrong with public education, you'd have said. and I'd have demanded a private one. You'd have turned your face towards me as you counted our few remaining dollars to my wailing about balancing the budget. We would have been happy. His first school bag in one hand, his other hand waving to the neighbour's girl before waving to us. His teachers would have complained, as teachers are wont to do, and we'd have called her names for her blindness to the genius of our only son. Yes, we'd have bought him a battery-operated car, built him a paper plane that doesn't fly, maintained his white teeth, flipped his collar for coolness. And he'd have loved me more than you, because of issues beyond my grasp. Your jealousy would have grown mysterious, and when his voice changed, he'd hate us both, and love the neighbour's girl more. Rumination would have haunted us for hours at night, our whispers advising us to be patient, let go, observe from a distance. And then you'd have lost your wits over his first cigarette, the hidden pack in the laundry room, but his tremulous voice would prevent you from slapping him with an open palm. You'd have forgiven him. You're kind like that. He'd only smoked in secret, but the first rock he'd have thrown at soldiers at the checkpoint to raise his heroic stock in Manal's eyes would have declared war in our house, being followed by flying slippers. Nightly debates wouldn't have helped us to core solutions. I'd have to carry him between my teeth, fly him from one neighbourhood to another to shield him, but he'd run away. And that would be who he'd always been, a misguided kid who saps the heart and soul. That's who he was. Still, you were martyred 8 years before he was born, and he was martyred 8 years after you were gone. Thank you very much.
Give him a get well soon round of applause. Get well soon, Blindboy. Give him a huge cheer. Come on, Blindboy. That's the one. That's the one. Poor old Blindboy, and he was doing so well at keeping up the face covering and everything. Thanks, lads. Thanks. I love a charity laugh. It's great. You're very kind. No, you really are. There's so much soundness in the room. It's just an incredible thing. It's very touching to witness. So we are nearly at the end. And though we have some more beautiful music for you, which will be followed by closing remarks from Michael Magee, but first, our final reader of the night travelled all the way from London to be with us. Ahmed Massoud is a writer and director who grew up in the Gaza Strip and moved to London in 2002. His work includes acclaimed novel Vanished, The Mysterious Disappearance of Mustafa Joudah, and Come What May. He has many theatre and radio credits, including Escape from Gaza for BBC Radio 4. Please, a huge Céad Míle Fáilte for our final reader of the evening, Ahmed Massoud.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's a very, very difficult day for me today, actually. But I insisted on coming because I wanted to be with like-minded people, people who understand. And I think that's why your presence here is very important. I think to me, personally, to my family, and to my people in Palestine. My mum made it to the south in Khan Yunis a few days ago, only that the south is not safe anymore, and today they were bombing in the south a lot. My siblings are all in the north, and actually 2 of my siblings, my brother and my sister, we have no news of them so far since yesterday. So it's been quite very, very difficult, but I thought I can't be in London on my own, and I wanted to be with people who are here to support me, and I want to be with them, and I want to get that comfort and that strength from you as well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm a writer. I write novels and plays all set in Gaza. I like Gaza. I love Gaza. It's a beautiful place. It's a beautiful Mediterranean place that is just so gorgeous, and I hope you get to visit it at some point. And what I try to do with my writing is because people can't go to Gaza, I try to kind of take people to Gaza and write about the streets and the cafes and stories. So my first novel was called Vanished, and it's set in Jabalia camp in the north, in a house where I grew up, and now it's all bombed and gone. The entire street has been gone. And then my other novel is called Come What May. And somebody recently said to me, like, I'm glad you wrote those novels because it's a record of that city and that beautiful city. So I'm going to read you a little bit from it now. And it's really, what the novel is it's a murder story. It's a detective story. It's about a woman trying to find who killed her husband back in 2014 when we had a massive war on Gaza as well. So I'm just going to read a little bit from it. I continued walking up the hill all the way towards the big building of the Palestinian Legislative Council, the PLC, at the top of the triangular El Rimal Public Park, where the statue of the unknown soldier once stood. The air smelled very clean, a hint of citrus coming from a few trees in the middle of the park. An old man was roasting sweet potatoes by the side of the road. A little boy next to him was feeding the fire with twigs. And the large barbecue pot looked precarious as it rested on 3 big stones. But the fire and the smell of the roast potatoes mixed with the citrusy air were very comforting. They brought back memories of better days, of me and Iomaire before we got married, of laughing out loud on the street and being stared at by old men in suits and conservative jalabiyas. They were happy days, the kind of feeling you get on a summer holiday, a rest in between life's hectic schedules, a chance to switch off completely, waking up to warm sun on the beach somewhere, eating exotic food, meeting new people. That was what Gaza was like in the late 90s. A city taking a break from wars, a promise that life was or could be okay. Learning Shakespeare in Gaza was hilarious, as if we didn't have enough tragedies here already. At university, we studied Henry V, which brought hope to some of us in class, that one day we would have a leader who would be able to lead a few to victory, enable the weak to grow stronger, give faith to those who lost all hope. A leader who would bring a smile to our faces, who would look us in the eye and shout, once more onto the breach, dear friends, once more, or stop up the wall with our Palestinian dead. But instead, Yasser Arafat came along and brought with him an entourage, a corrupt band of brothers. So this is a little bit, the novel goes on, and she tries to find her husband and what happened to him and who killed him, and eventually stuff unrevealed, I suppose. But I wanted to read a little bit from a play I wrote called The Shroud Maker, this one, which is about a woman, a real woman. Back in 2014, she would make shrouds for the dead. And I was reading all the news, making sure that my family are okay, and I saw this interview with her where the journalist was asking her, like, why are you opening your shop now? And she said, well, the more people that die, the better for me, I make more money. And I thought, wow, like, this is incredible. Who is this woman? So I started looking into her life story. And I wrote this play loosely based on her life story. So it's not exactly her life story. It goes back to 1930s, where she grew up in the house of the British High Commissioner in there. And she tells her life story of survival and the story of Palestine together. So she starts by talking about selling shrouds for the dead. So it's supposed to be a black comedy, so feel free to laugh if you want to. I'll just find the page. There it is. She's talking about her business. I do offer a discount sometimes. For example, if you choose this fabric, buy one, get one free. But I don't need to. Only one member of my family has died. Listen, Habibi, we're all going to die. God has provided 2 guarantees for this: the angel of death and the Israelis. And before you ask it, it's not pure cotton, hence the lower price tag. In fact, it's not cotton at all, it's polyester. I mean, how are we supposed to get cotton in Gaza since the fucking Egyptians destroyed the tunnels? There's barely a scrap to be had. But I have my ways. I buy it from old Abu Shahada down in the old market in Gaza City, another octogenarian like me. And he gets it through Rifat, the mechanic on Salah ad-Din Street. cotton from a mechanic, eh? Only in Gaza. Well, Rifat the mechanic orders parts of his workshop through an Egyptian dealer who smuggles them through his tunnel into Gaza wrapped in cotton. Muhammad, the middleman, picks them up from Rafah, delivers them to Rifat, the mechanic, who sends the cotton onto Abu Shahada, who sends it on to me to Al-Shaja'iyya on a donkey cart. Finest Egyptian cotton, after that exotic transit stinking like something the cat dragged in. The combined stench of engine oil and donkey shit is uniquely offensive. So I have to boil it and beat it and scrub it and scour it till my hands are as pink as a lobster. I add the soap, water, electricity, when we have any, and labor to the overheads, import duties. That's why cotton shrouds are expensive in Gaza. And these tunnel traders, if you think I'm hard-nosed, you should see these guys, supply-side economics, greedy bastards. They demand whatever they want. Talk about a captive market. Can you blame me for trying to make an honest shekel dressing corpses? The last batch of cotton arrived stuffed with pills. I said to Abu Shahada, what are all these pills? You going into pharmacy? He turns a deep shade of pink and starts paying very close attention to something stuck at the end of his walking stick. Eventually, he mutters something inaudibly. I say, what? Niagara? He coughs and splutters and mutters again, right in my ear like a wheezy old pig. Shh, he says, all panicking, that's so loud. What's going on to you, Abu Shahada? Are you in trouble? It's Rifat, the mechanic, he hisses. He's trading naughty pills. Naughty pills for the resistance. The resistance? Well, why do you think we have so many babies in Gaza? Every time they kill us, boom, boom, we make more new babies. Reproductive resistance. It's a numbers game. So you need the pills to keep up the Abu Shahada, you dirty old goat. Shame on you filling my respectable cotton shrouds with Viagra. Go on, take it away. We don't want any dead men's erection around here. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ahmed Massoud! And please give it up for everyone you heard reading tonight, everyone who gave up their time and talent. Do please stick around for the closing remarks when everyone will get thanked properly. I'd like to give a special thanks to everyone on Lights and Sound here at Vicar Street. They've done an incredible job. Really so appreciative of it. So stick around for the closing remarks, and I'm going to take my leave of you for now. I've been Tara Flynn. It's been an absolute honour to be with you tonight, and I'm just going to one last thank you very much. Oh, stop it! You're too sound now. It's because I said it was needy, wasn't it? Our final musical act perform new interpretations of old songs with dark and dreamy undertones, featuring themes of love, loss, and the supernatural. Everyone, a huge Vicar Street closing act welcome for Poor Creature!
Hello, hi, nice to see you all. We are Poor Creature, and we're very honoured to be here tonight. Sorry, I have to take off my shoes. We're going to sing two songs, two old Irish songs. The first one is called The Ghost of Willio, and it's about the pain of separation, the grief and pain of separation from your loved ones. And then the second one is called The Forger's Farewell, which is a story about being forced from your homeland by an occupier. So yeah, Magee, I was Saoirse Dun, Palestine.
Jesus. I almost forgot I had to come out here listening to that. Jeez, that was incredible. Thank you so much. Firstly, I want to thank Tara Flynn for being such an amazing host. I wouldn't have liked to have had that job of breaking that news about Blindboy and Sally Rooney, but she handled that so well. I was just like that from the sideline. But when we first sat down and started organising this event, I don't think we could have imagined that it would end up where it is. It's astonishing, really, and we're just so grateful for you all coming out tonight, for showing your support, and most importantly, for standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people. I'm going to thank a lot of people here. I'm very sorry, but it's necessary. First and foremost, Sinéad Gleeson, because Jesus Christ, this probably wouldn't have happened without her. She has more contacts in her phone book than most fucking presidents. I also want to thank Roisin Davis, Hannah Kenny, Anna Leishing, Stephen Conley, who designed the artwork and posters. I want to thank Tom Morris, and most importantly, my girlfriend and partner, Ellen Ray, who helped me organise this, helped all of us organise this, and spent a lot of time on it, so I'm incredibly grateful. I'd like to thank Dave O'Carroll, who helped us out towards the end there, our bookseller tonight, Connolly Books. Shout out to Helen McDonald as well, it's called Duggery. They've got merch that you can buy that I'm sure you've already bought, actually. And I'd also like to thank, of course, Vicar Street for having us. Brian Barry in particular. He's been an absolute joy to work with. Finally, I'd like to thank Irish Artists for Palestine, particularly Brandy and Claire Loughran. Yeah, absolutely. For those who don't know, Irish Artists for Palestine started a few weeks ago, really. It's a coalition of artists who are involved in organising an all-island programme of solidarity events in response to the genocidal attack and a siege on Gaza and the ongoing occupation of Palestine. I don't know if you follow them on Instagram, but you can sort of see that there's artists from across Ireland have taken it upon themselves to organise gigs, art exhibitions, film screenings, stand-up comedy nights, theatre shows, literary events, and fundraisers, all under the auspices of Irish Writers for Palestine. It's the support that people showing up at these events has been incredible. I mean, 13,000 people went to the Three Arena last week to listen to some music and sing songs for Palestine, which is kind of astonishing, really. And these things are happening everywhere. I mean, the last time I counted, there was like 60 of them, which is just astonishing, really. As for our own series of events, we're hosting another Irish Writers for Palestine this Thursday in the Project Arts Centre. So there's a few tickets left, so get your arses down. It's a big group of poets, people like Jane Clark, Sean Hewitt, Mustafa Kiskia, Jessica Traynor, who organised the whole thing, absolute legend, Needy Zach, Stephen Ray is also making an appearance, and Aaron Fornhoff. Then we're going to go to Galway on the 10th of December, where Manuela Moser and Elaine Feeney have organised an incredible night of reading, featuring writers like Mike McCormick, Claire Louise Bennett, Nicole Flattery, Mary Costello, and Lisa McInerney. And then on the 15th, we go across the water to London, where the Irish diaspora has stepped up, organised their own event, which will feature readings like Lucy Caldwell, Keith Ridgway, Megan Nolan, Brian Dillon, Rachel Connolly, and Susanna Dickey, with all proceeds going to medical aid for Palestinians. Finally, I want to thank the readers and musicians, so Blindboy, who sadly was here over video, Colin Bark, Kevin Barry, Sinead Gleeson, Siobhán McSweeney, Mark O'Connell, Sally Rooney, Poor Creature, Colin McConamar. When we set out to organise this series of readings, we knew we had to go big to make any kind of impact. Each of these readers stepped up to the mark, regardless of whatever potential personal risk, which is always a thing with these kind of things, and we're incredibly grateful for it. I would also like to thank our Palestinian readers, Fady Joudah, Ahmed Massoud, Bana Abu Zulov. It's been an absolute honour to hear you read and speak tonight. Thank you for being here with us and for the dignity with which you carry yourselves and your stories. Lastly, and I do mean lastly, I think that everything that Irish Artists for Palestine has done over the last few weeks and the massive outpouring of support for the events speaks to the growing sentiment we're seeing across Ireland. People have been galvanised They're taken to the streets in massive numbers, and it's important that that energy continues, that we keep fighting, keep protesting, keep boycotting Israeli goods, and keep holding our government and elected representatives to account. In terms of what we can do as writers, I guess, I'd like to quote from an email I received yesterday from Fady, Joudah, who read those incredible poems, series of poems at the end of the first section. He said, Palestinians need to become more routine in the psyche of the Western world, beyond misery, carnage, and devastation. More of us need to empower others with the balsam of life. One of the ways of doing this, I think, is to create more opportunities for Palestinian writers to come here, to Ireland, to speak, to read, to launch their books, and to publish them. Censorship is still very much part and parcel of the experience of being a Palestinian writer. Whether it's a soft censorship of agents, refusing to sign Palestinian writers on the assumption that their books won't sell well, or the more outright censorship that comes with events being cancelled, book signings relocated, and conversations being reframed to suit a particular narrative about the Palestinian experience. And even when a Palestinian writer actually breaks through, when they win prestigious literary awards, as Iomaire Shibli did at the Frankfurt Book Fair not so long ago, those awards are taken away from them. The question then is, how can Palestinians become more routine in the psyche of the Western world if they're not afforded the opportunity to speak, to tell their own stories, and more importantly, to have their stories heard? I'll leave you with this. Something that keeps cropping up in conversations I've overheard or mostly seen on Twitter. There's this particular phrase, and it sounds something like the complicated nature of this situation. All this screaming and shouting you're doing, all these open letters you're signing, these protests you're attending, they don't reflect the complicated nature of the situation, they say. Call me naive, but I can't help but wondering what is so complicated about it. Since the end of the temporary ceasefire, if you want to call it a ceasefire, we've seen an intensification of the bombardment of Gaza. Experts say that even a conservative reading of the casualty figures reported from Gaza show that the pace of death and the sheer number of women and children that have been killed by the Israeli state has few precedents in this century. None of this is unintentional. The mass displacement of the population of Gaza, the cutting off of water, food, electricity, and humanitarian aid, the targeting of hospitals, schools, refugee camps, university institutions, and journalists, some of whom have been murdered alongside their entire families. All of these actions are further evidence of the Israeli state's ongoing strategy of collective punishment against the Palestinian people. I think that's why it's important for us to sustain this momentum, to keep pressurizing in whatever way we can, as artists and writers, however big or small our platforms might be, and to call on the Irish government to sanction the Israeli state now, expel the Israeli ambassador, implement Senator Francis Black's Occupied Territories Bill, and report the Israeli state to the International Criminal Court for the war crimes they've committed. They've acted with impunity for too long, on too many occasions, and it's about time they answered for their ongoing genocidal policies against the Palestinian people. There can't be a free Palestine until the blockade is ended and the Israeli apartheid system is dismantled. Until then, we march forward, we keep going, we keep platforming Palestinian voices in whatever way we can, and we keep resisting. Garla Mila Mayogat, everybody. More importantly, free Palestine. Thank you all so much for coming. Free Palestine.